I relapsed 2 days ago. I tried to film a video about it yesterday and the words just didn't come out. I couldn't find my flow because I was trying to tie it up in a neat little bow and make it digestible for myself and for you. And it's not. It's just not the kind of thing that you can make a quippy, straight to the point, succinct video about, or at least I can't. So I'm trying again, and I'm gonna try to come to this space from a more honest place. And I'll start with how I feel now. I have a thing where I automatically repress my emotions if they're overwhelming or negative. If they're not explicitly positive, I automatically avoid them and move on, move forward. And one of the ways I move forward is to categorize, put it in a box, label it, analyze it, and then move forward and like talk about my goals for next time or whatever. And that was sort of what I was trying to do when I first tried to film this video. I wanted to talk about trauma and triggers and these psychological concepts and how they relate to my experience. And, you know, I'm still interested in that, but that is like the end point, and I can't get to the end until I start from the beginning. And I was trying to avoid starting from the beginning. And the beginning is feeling my fucking feelings. And I'm not really sure how I feel about it. I am trying really hard not to be mad at myself. And so logically and like in my higher self, in my front of my brain, I know that it's not my fault. I shouldn't blame myself, and that recovery is not a straight line. And just because I had an episode doesn't mean that I'm no longer in recovery, and doesn't mean I'm no longer committed. And I want that feeling of forgiveness and self-compassion to really sink into my bones. But it hasn't yet because I'm sort of dissociated. It was an interesting and unexpected episode because as you know, I'm on a restrictive diet right now. And for the first time that I've been on a restrictive diet, I have been feeling really good about it. Like, not triggered, not eating disordery and like shitty in my brain of like, this is gonna be so good because I'm gonna lose so much weight, all that. None of that was really going on. I was starting to feel better physically, and I was feeling really happy that I wasn't going to a really restrictive, negative place in my mind, and I was able to feel better physically, because that's the whole point. So for once, my trigger wasn't body image related or food related or appearance related in any way. And it wasn't even really about me. I was around a really stressful social situation that didn't directly involve me, but I was kind of marinated in it for a while. And it was a situation that directly pressed one of my like biggest anxiety triggers. And I left the situation feeling dissociated, feeling like fine. And then as the day progressed, I started getting this totally like beyond language, just visceral feeling of anxiety, like from my neck, like down my spinal column, just a sense of like tightening and helplessness and rage. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is how I think bulimia specifically gets oversimplified as just an eating disorder that's related to body image, and that people make themselves throw up as a means of having a certain body size, which is not untrue. But I think that there's another element of bulimia, and especially for me, I don't know what other people's experience is, but there's an element of addiction to it, where the way I feel about the binge purge process is the way that I've heard people talk about heroin, trying to quit alcohol or cigarettes or like any like addictive substance. where it is so effective at alleviating this physical, beyond words sense of anxiety and helplessness that's one of the reasons I've continued going back to it for so long, in addition to the body image stuff. I don't know if that makes sense. This situation is a good example of how being triggered to return to the binge purge cycle can happen in a situation that has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with the way you look, nothing to do with your body. And it may not even be caused by your sense of yourself. If you're a really sensitive person, it might just be the energy around you causes you to go into sort of a bad place. So that's what happened. I was in this stressful situation. I had this incredible, overwhelming sense of anxiety that continued to get worse. And I did a lot of things to try and like numb myself throughout the day. And at a certain point, I was fully aware and I just decided I need to do this. I need this. I had so many opportunities to choose not to, and I chose it. And I'm not really in a place right now where I can conceive of tips for myself or like how to move forward and do better next time. I'm not in a place where I can think like, okay, how can I make sure this doesn't happen next time? Because I'm still just processing it and trying to forgive myself for it. But I wanted to share my experience, first of all, to be honest, and secondly, to acknowledge that bulimia as an eating disorder is a lot more complicated than it is portrayed in the media, which is true of most things, of course. But I have always felt this sense that there's like two sides of my eating disorder. There's the side that's body image focused and externally focused, and that's part of like this nebula of different eating disorder behaviors that includes binging and purging, but is not limited to that. And then there's this other side of it where it is just focused on that process of binge eating and then throwing up. And it's a process that feels like it helps me process my emotions. It helps me physically work through emotions that I don't yet have the tools to process. And that might sound really weird. I don't know if other people have that experience or not. And obviously it doesn't genuinely help. It's a maladaptive behavior. It's absolutely terrible for my soul and for my body. And I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying there's some part of me that's trying to solve a problem by doing that. And so the goal is to figure out ways to process those emotions in not harmful ways. And it's difficult because the feeling of helplessness is so intense that normally I would just say to myself like, okay, you should go exercise, like go hit a punching bag or go for a run. And I love working out, and like working out just totally is a paradigm shifter for me. But I don't think that it's necessarily realistic in that scenario where the main feeling is like helplessness and almost like I can't move and I'm like so anxious. It's like paralysis. I think paralysis is the word. Yeah, I would describe. It's like internal paralysis. So I don't know if it's realistic that I would feel capable of going for a run. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't plan this video. I just wanted to update you and begin the process of reconciling with myself. I wanted to just share my experience so that if other people are on the path of recovery and watching this, whether it's recovery from an eating disorder or something else, that you're not alone. And also, I had a wonderful therapist, my favorite therapist I've ever had. And she used to say, it's not a relapse, it's a lapse. And don't let a lapse become a relapse. So I really want to absorb that right now and believe that this was a one-time thing. It may happen again a million more times throughout my life. But as long as the period of time between each lapse is getting longer and the general trend is towards progress, then I'm happy. And if it starts to look like my trend is not towards progress anymore, then I will call in more reinforcements and I will do whatever it takes, because my health and well-being matters. And so does yours. We do hurtful things to ourselves because we didn't learn other skills. And it doesn't make us bad people. It doesn't make us stupid. It just means we have some stuff to learn. And the number one thing that we have to learn is to love ourselves and respect ourselves. That's the number one thing. And it is not loving or respectful to shit on yourself and hate on yourself if you make a mistake. So if you're going through anything right now and you had a slip up or a setback, I forgive you. You should forgive yourself too. I forgive myself. Tomorrow is another day, etc. All the cliche things. See you in the next video.